Welcome to our statistics project. So let's take a look at this project. Our theory is that potatoes get wider as they get longer because we rarely see a potato in the shape of a pencil, long and skinny. So the population we're concerning ourselves with is potatoes all over the world. And so we could never measure every potato in the world, so we're going to go ahead and collect a sample of data. Our theory about potatoes getting wider as they get longer, that's our hypothesis. So the null hypothesis, in this case, states that the theory above is true, but we're going to collect data and we might find out that it's false. The alternative hypothesis is that we might find out that potatoes can grow to different lengths without ever getting wider. So in our potato research, we're going to collect data out of convenience. We're going to simply buy a bag of potatoes and measure them, and then we're going to use those measurements as our data and then conduct our statistical research. The vocabulary that we're going to be covering are maybe words that are new to you, but after we explain their meaning, you are going to become comfortable with them and you'll be able to relate them to things in everyday life. So I'm not going to go over all of these right now, but we will, as we proceed forwards with the project, cover each one of these terms in detail. We're also going to cover some data visualizations. A lot of times it's difficult to look at just rows and rows of numbers and figure out what's going on. So we're going to learn how to draw a number of different graphs like box plots, scatter plots, and histograms that help us understand the data that we're collecting. We're also going to learn how to read graphs that other people have created to understand their research. We're going to also bring this all together into a complete research report as part of this project. And in this way, we're going to learn about data, statistics, and patterns, and that'll help us get better results and develop better theories in the future. So let's go ahead and get started. First, we have to gather the data. We've got to measure those potatoes. So we're going to use a measurement instrument, in this case a caliper that allows us to measure in inches with pretty good detail anything that we can put in between those jaws of that claw-looking device at the top. So here you can see Professor Richardson. She's measuring the length of this potato. We decided that we were going to say that the length of the potato is the widest spot that you can find on the potato. So we move around the caliper until we get it to the widest spot and remember what that number is in inches. We also decided that the width of a potato is going to be the narrowest spot that you can measure on a potato. Certainly you could rotate the potato around and get a wider number, but we're looking at the width as being the most narrow spot on the potato, and that'll be consistent, help us develop consistent measurements across the entire bag of potatoes. Once we've gone ahead and taken the measurements, we're going to go ahead and put some painter's tape around the potato, and that'll be a place where we can use a marking pen and record the values that we've measured. Here you can see Professor Richardson is going ahead and applying that painter's tape, and that's only going to be used after the measurements have been taken. So once the tape is applied, then we can write on the tape without having to write with a magic marker on the potato itself. So once we do each potato, you have to go ahead and look at it, find its widest point and its narrowest point, and keep going until the entire bag of potatoes is complete. And here you can see Professor Richardson has completed an entire bag of potatoes and recorded on each one the length and the width of each of those potatoes. Finally, the data has been entered into a spreadsheet. The numbers are going to be different for different students so that we're not always working with the same numbers. We have multiple lists of potato lengths and widths, and that's how we're going to go ahead and create the report for this project. That's the data that we're going to use. It's the data that Professor Richardson has collected by measuring each potato individually. So in our next presentation, we'll talk about the next steps, and we'll go into a lot of those vocabulary terms that I just showed you earlier, and we'll also go into those graphing and visualization concepts that I explained earlier. And by the time we're all done with this, you'll have created your own report, and you can go ahead and include that as part of your portfolio or your extended resume, if you will, going ahead and showing potential employers that indeed you understand these concepts. You can take real-world data and produce professional-looking reports that help people make business, healthcare, and engineering, all sorts of decisions get made with these kind of statistical results. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you soon.